This is MMA Oddsbreakers.
All right, guys, change of pace here, but we are sticking to UFC 154. This time it's a featherweight bout between the struggling Mark Hominick and Pablo Garza, kind of struggling himself as well here. I'm going to open up Hominick as the favorite, minus 260. The comeback's going to be plus 200 on Garza. We'll throw it over to Adam first on this fight. What are your thoughts?
You know, a couple fights ago, minus 250 on Hominick would have been a steal. I mean, he was so highly favored against both the Korean Zombie and Eddie Yagin, and yeah, he lost both those fights. So, you know, Hominick has so many question marks surrounding him right now. I mean, he's lost 3 in a row. He's been knocked out in 7 seconds. He got knocked down twice by Eddie Yagin, so he's incredibly chinny right now. And you know, I just don't trust him completely. But Pablo Garza is another guy that's I don't know what happened to him. He had so much potential. He had that flying knee knockout on Fredson Paixão. He had the flying triangle choke submission on Yves Brand. And then since then, he's just been a dud. He looked terrible against Dustin Poirier. And he looked even worse against Dennis Bermudez. So, you know, he's another guy I can't trust. And he's a guy that lost to Tien Zhang in the WEC. So, you know, Pablo Garza, he does have the length and the reach. And he's a tall guy. He's very unorthodox. But I just don't see him beating Mark Hominick. I think Hominick's going to win this fight. I do think he'll knock out Garza, but at minus 250, and for a guy that's lost 3 fights in a row, it's just not a good bet. For purposes of the show, though, I will take Mark Hominick.
Okay, so cautiously, Adam Martin's going to go with the favorite here at minus 260. It's going to be $1,300 to win $500. Let's throw it over to Greg. Greg, what are your thoughts on this fight?
Well, you know, you have 2 fighters here that are both on losing streaks, both potentially, you know, Hominick obviously on a 3-fight losing streak. And having a 3-fight losing streak in the UFC is never a positive for job security. And you have Garza that if he loses this fight will be on a 3-fight losing streak. I think Hominick, you know, if he goes back to the Hominick that was in the Jose Aldo, you know, he gets the 7-second knockout loss to the Korean Zombie. Of course, the loss of his coach, Sean Tompkins. There's a lot of effect going on there. You know, we've seen it's going to be now, about a year and a half since his loss to Aldo. He's had the loss of Sean Tompkins. Hopefully, he's turned things around. In his last loss, it was at least a fight of the night performance. And I think we're going to see Mark Hominick start to get back to the Mark Hominick that we knew that earned the title shot. And I don't think Pablo Garza is the type of guy that's going to get in his way. I mean, yes, Hominick has losses, but let's look at him. You know, Jose Aldo on a decision and a flash knockout against another top title contender. He's fought better competition, and I don't see, you know, obviously it's MMA and anything can happen, but I don't see a way that Pablo Garza gets through Mark Hominick, and especially not up in Montreal.
Okay, so Greg also confident that Hominick does bounce back in this fight. Laying the juice, minus 260. It's going to be $1,300 to win $500. So once again, our experts do agree Mark Hominick beats Pablo Garza at UFC 154.
Well, thanks for joining us. That's it for another episode of MMA Oddsbreakers. You can look for the odds that Nick broke right here on the show to start popping up at the sportbooks throughout the coming week. And a big special thanks to our 2 guests, Adam Martin and Greg Delong. Thanks for joining us, guys. Great job.
And if you haven't checked out our site yet, make sure you head over to MMAOddsbreaker.com. A lot of betting picks, previews, and much, much more. And also follow us on Twitter at MMA Oddsbreaker. For Miguel Literati, I'm Nick Kalikas saying until next time, enjoy the fights.